Willow's desperate manipulation, a mother's dark turn in the Quartermain nursery. The snowstorm that descended upon Port Charles on this frigid February night brought more than just blizzard conditions and power outages. Inside the grand Quartermain mansion, while the wind howled and snow piled against the windows, a far more chilling scene was unfolding in the darkness of the children's nursery, one that would shake the very foundation of Michael, Corinthos' world, and potentially damage his children forever. A mother's midnight visit. The nursery was shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by the faint glow of a nightlight, casting shadows across the room where Amelia and Wiley slept peacefully. Outside, the blizzard raged with increasing fury, creating a white wall of snow that obscured everything beyond the windows. It was the perfect cover for what was about to transpire. The window slid open with barely a whisper, letting in a gust of freezing air and swirling snowflakes. Willow Corinthos, or rather the woman who once was Willow, climbed through with surprising agility, her designer coat dusted with fresh snow, her hair wild from the storm. Her eyes, however, held something far more unsettling than the winter tempest outside. There was a manic gleam in them, a desperate edge that spoke of a woman who had crossed a line she could never uncross. She moved silently across the plush carpet, her breath forming small clouds in the suddenly frigid air. The storm outside seemed to pause, as if nature itself was holding its breath for what came next. Willow approached the bed where her children's sweet, innocent Amelia and Wiley lay, wrapped in their warm blankets, completely unaware of the psychological warfare about to be waged upon their young minds. The awakening. Willow's hand, trembling slightly, whether from cold or anticipation was unclear, reached out and gently shook Wiley's small shoulder. Then Amelia's. The children stirred their faces, scrunching up in confusion as they were pulled from their dreams. Mommy, Wiley mumbled, rubbing his eyes with small fists. His voice was thick with sleep and confusion. Amelia's eyes fluttered open, and for a moment pure joy lit up her face. "Mama," she started to exclaim. But Willow's finger flew to her lips, the universal gesture for silence. "Shh," she whispered urgently, her voice barely audible over the howling wind. "You have to be very, very quiet, my darlings. No one can know I'm here." The children, still groggy but sensing the seriousness in their mother's tone, nodded slowly. Wiley's lower lip began to tremble. "Why, Mommy, why can't anyone know?" Willow knelt beside the bed, bringing herself to eye level with her children. In the dim light, her face took on an almost ghoulish quality, shadows pooling in the hollows of her cheeks. She reached out and took both their small hands in hers, squeezing perhaps a bit too tightly. "Planting seeds of poison." "My sweet babies," Willow began, her voice taking on a theatrical quality, dripping with false emotion. "I need you to listen very carefully to Mommy. What I'm about to tell you is very, very important." The children nodded, their eyes wide and trusting. They had no reason to doubt their mother, no framework to understand that what was about to happen was a profound betrayal. "Your father," Willow said, and even in the darkness both children could see the way her expression hardened, "is keeping me away from you. Michael is the reason we can't be a family anymore." Daddy Wiley's voice was small, confused. "But Daddy said, your father is lying to you." Willow cut him off sharply, then seemed to catch herself softening her tone. "I know it's hard to understand, sweetie, but sometimes people we love do very bad things. Michael, he's being a monster." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "Daddy's not a monster," she whispered, but there was uncertainty in her voice now. Children are remarkably perceptive, and they could sense the wrongness in the air even if they couldn't articulate it. Willow's eyes flashed with something dark and desperate. She leaned in closer, her grip on their hands tightening. "He is baby. He's the monster who's keeping me locked away. He and Grandmother Carly, they're working together to make sure I never see you again." "But we see you now," Wiley said, his logical child's mind trying to make sense of the contradiction. "Only because I risked everything to climb through that window in the middle of a terrible storm," Willow said. And now real tears began to stream down her face, though whether they were tears of genuine emotion or calculated manipulation was impossible to. Sigh. Perhaps even Willow herself no longer knew the difference. "I had to see you. I had to make you understand what's happening." The manipulation deepens. The children were crying now too, their small faces crumpled in confusion and fear. The safe, predictable world they had known was crumbling around them, and they had no tools to rebuild it. Willow seized on their emotional vulnerability. "Listen to me," she said, her voice taking on an urgent, almost hypnotic quality. "There's only one way we can be together again. Only one way to stop your father from keeping me away forever." "What?" Mommy Amelia asked, desperate for any solution that would make sense of this nightmare. "What do we have to do?" "You need to scream for me," Willow said, her eyes glittering with an unsettling intensity. "Every single day. When your father tries to take care of you, when he tries to tuck you in or read you stories or make you breakfast, you need to scream that you want your mommy. You need to cry and refuse everything he tries to do. Do you understand?" Wiley's small face was twisted in anguish. "But Daddy gets sad when we cry. Good." The word came out almost as a hiss, and Willow's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing the raw desperation and anger beneath. She quickly composed herself, but both children had seen it and they shrank back slightly. "I mean, that's exactly what needs to happen, sweetheart. You need to make him so sad, so upset that he realizes he has to let me come home." "Don't you want Mommy to come home?" "Yes," both children whispered in unison, because what else could they say? They were children, and this was their mother. And the whole situation was so far beyond their understanding that they could only cling to the familiar anchor of wanting their family together. The toxic promise. Willow's expression softened into something that might have been tenderness in another context, but here, in this dark room, with the storm raging outside, it looked more like triumph. "My brave, wonderful children," she cooed. "You're going to save us. You're going to save our family." She pulled them both into a tight embrace, and over their small shoulders her eyes blazed with a manic determination. "But you have to promise me something very important. You have to promise that you'll reject everything Michael tries to give you. Every hug, every bedtime story, every attempt to comfort you. You push him away. You scream for me. You tell him you hate him for keeping Mommy away. Can you promise me that?" In the embrace, Amelia and Wiley nodded against their mother's shoulder, too overwhelmed to do anything else. They were making a promise they didn't understand, entering into a contract written by madness and desperation. "Say it," Willow demanded softly. "Say, 'I promise, Mommy.'" "I promise, Mommy," the children repeated in small, uncertain voices. "Good. That's my good children." Willow pulled back, cupping their faces in her hands. "And remember, this is our secret. You can't tell anyone I was here. Not your father, not Grandmother Carly, not anyone. If you tell, then Michael will make sure I never ever see you again. He'll send me so far away that I can never come back. Do you understand?" The children nodded, now thoroughly terrified and confused, bound by promises and secrets they were far too young to carry. The departure. Willow stood smoothing down her coat. The madness in her eyes had been replaced by a cold calculation. "I have to go now before someone discovers I'm here. But remember what I told you. Every day you fight for Mommy. Every day you make your father understand what he's done. Can you do that for me?" "Yes, Mommy," they whispered. "I love you both so much," Willow said, and for just a moment, something real flickered across her face. Genuine love, twisted and warped by desperation, until it had become something toxic and dangerous. "We'll be together again soon. I promise." She moved to the window, which she had left slightly ajar. The storm outside had intensified, if that was even possible. Snow was piling up on the windowsill, and the wind shrieked like a living thing. Willow paused, looking back at her children one last time. Remember, she said, her voice barely audible over the storm. "Scream for Mommy. Every day. It's the only way." And then she was gone, climbing back out into the blizzard as silently as she had come. The window slid shut behind her, leaving only a small puddle of melted snow and a blast of cold air as evidence of her visit. The aftermath begins. Amelia and Wiley sat in their beds shivering now from more than just the cold. They looked at each other in the darkness, their young faces reflecting confusion, fear, and a terrible new burden. Wiley Amelia whispered, "I'm scared." "Me too," her brother admitted. "Do you think Daddy really is a monster?" Amelia thought about it, her small mind wrestling with impossible contradictions. She thought about her father's gentle hands when he tucked her in his patient voice, when he read stories, his warm hugs when she had nightmares. But she also thought about her mother's tears, her desperate words, the way she had climbed through a window in a snowstorm just to see them. "I don't know," she finally said. "But Mommy said we have to help her. Okay, Wiley agreed, because what else could he say? They were children caught in an adult war they couldn't possibly understand. Neither of them could sleep after that. They lay in the darkness, listening to the storm rage outside, their small hearts heavy with secrets and promises, and the terrible weight of choosing between their parents. The nightlight that had always made them feel safe now cast menacing shadows on the walls, and every creak of the old mansion made them jump. In just those few minutes, Willow had planted seeds that would grow into thorns, creating wounds in her children's psyches that might never fully heal. She had weaponized their love for her, turned their desire for a reunited family into a tool for manipulation, and burdened them with adult conflicts and moral dilemmas they were nowhere near equipped to handle. The morning after, when morning came gray and cold, the storm had finally begun to subside. Michael knocked gently on the nursery door before entering, as he always did. "Good morning, little ones," he said cheerfully. "Who wants pancakes?" Amelia and Wiley looked at each other. In the harsh light of morning, their mother's midnight visit seemed almost dreamlike, but the promises they had made felt all too real. As Michael approached with open arms for a morning hug, both children remembered Willow's words, "Reject everything he tries to give you. No." Amelia suddenly screamed, her voice shrill and unexpected. "I want Mommy. I want Mommy." Wiley joined in, his voice breaking. "Where's Mommy? We want Mommy." Michael froze, shock and hurt crossing his face. This wasn't normal morning grumpiness. There was something different in their voices, something almost rehearsed. "Hey, hey," he said, softly kneeling down. "It's okay. I know you miss your mom. You're keeping her away." Amelia shouted, and the words were so clearly not her own that Michael's blood ran cold. "You're the monster. Let Mommy come home." And in that moment, as Michael looked at his children's tear-streaked faces, he realized that something had fundamentally changed. The custody battle had entered a new, darker phase, and somehow Willow had gotten to his children. The question was how, and more importantly, what other damage had she done in the process? The scene in the Quartermain nursery that snowy February night represented a point of no return for the Corinthos family. Willow's desperate act of manipulating her own children revealed the depths to which she was willing to sink in her battle against Michael. While the full consequences of her midnight visit have yet to unfold, one thing is certain: Amelia and Wiley, innocent casualties in their parents' war, will carry the scars of this manipulation for years to come. As Port Charles digs out from the blizzard, Michael faces an even more challenging task, digging out the truth of what happened and trying to protect his children from a mother who is lost. Sight of where loving them ends and using them begins.